Hello friends, welcome to today's video. As you can tell, today is going to be a what I ate in a day and how I exercised in a day on the mywwblue plan. If you've watched one of my videos before, you know that I like to record a day of eating, keep track of my exercise, and then sit down here the next day so I can give you my feedback on how the recipes tasted, tell you maybe what I would do differently, and just have a chance to review the entire thing. So I decided it was going to be a waffle day. I'd found a couple of recipes on the WW app that I wanted to try, but let's just start right out by getting into my breakfast. So today is going to be waffle day. I am making a sweet waffle for breakfast, and I'm making a savory waffle that I believe I'm going to have one serving for lunch and one serving for dinner, but dressed up in different ways is my plan. But we're starting out with the sweet waffle, and this is a cinnamon roll protein waffle. This is from the WW app. It makes 2 servings, so I don't think it's going to be a huge waffle, but I've just mixed up the dry ingredients, which include protein powder, cinnamon, flour, baking soda, and a little bit of salt. I think that's everything that's in there. And then the wet ingredients are an egg. What else do we have in here? It calls for 6 tablespoons of skim milk. I use some light almond milk, or just almond milk, which tends to be light. And then some maple syrup in here for sweetness. I'm a little surprised there was no vanilla added, but I guess we're trying to get the cinnamon flavor to come out. This is my waffle iron I have. Let me see if I can make this a little brighter. It makes waffle fingers, so all of these are like individual little waffles. It's pretty deep. It's like a Belgian waffle maker. So we'll see how many waffle fingers we get out of this. I basically think I should be able to do the entire 2 servings in one go in this waffle iron. It's pretty big. And then I'll just split them up and have one of them for breakfast. So I'm going to get this going and I will show you the end result. Please ignore what I said in that intro about thinking that my waffle iron was going to be big enough to handle 2 servings. It was not. So if you choose to make this recipe, do it in 2 batches. So although the cooking process wasn't perfect, I am very happy with how these waffle fingers turned out. So you can see that I've topped them with raspberries and some sliced banana, and I decided to use an extra 3 points to put a tablespoon of real maple syrup on there. They look dark, that's just from the cinnamon, but I think they're going to be really good. I'm really excited to try these. So altogether, the waffle itself was 4 points and the maple syrup was 3, so 7 points for this meal. But it'd be really easy just to not have the maple syrup and make it a 4-point breakfast. These waffles were so good. So good. When they were first out of the waffle iron, they did have that nice waffly crispiness to them, and it paired so nicely with the fruit, and I like having the extra maple syrup on there. You must get real maple syrup. The flavor makes all the difference, but it just was so sweet and delicious and a little crispy and a little cakey. I did end up having the leftover waffle for breakfast this morning. I had it with some fresh peaches, which are so good right now, and again, more maple syrup. And it did not stay crispy the next day, but it almost had like a cakey texture to it, which was so good. It just tasted like a lovely waffle. And it's interesting how your mind plays tricks on you, because it is very dark from the cinnamon that's in it, but in my mind, I kept thinking that it tasted chocolatey. And that was 100% just because it had that dark brown look to it. I just kept thinking it was chocolate. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that there were no chocolate flavors in it, and my mind kept telling me that. It kind of reminds me a bit, I used to make my nieces their birthday cakes all the time. I really enjoyed decorating cakes, and I would ask them what flavors they wanted, and one year, one of my nieces wanted strawberry flavored cake. And I feel like this is a thing in the States, but I couldn't find like strawberry cake mix, and yes, I bake from cake mix because it's more about the decoration in that case than the like making some kind of fancy cake. So I basically got vanilla cake and I added just a little bit of red food coloring to it to make it like a pinkish kind of color. I think I maybe even put some pink sprinkles in the frosting between the layers. And at the birthday party, when we were all eating the cake, one of the moms that was there said, "Oh, this is really good and I can really taste the strawberry." And it's like, there's There's no strawberry in it. It's amazing how your mind fills in flavors when you're used to certain colors being certain flavors. And that was definitely happening with this waffle, but I would highly recommend it. It was super simple to make and just turned out really well. I should mention as well that I do drink coffee throughout the morning. I have been having my coffee lately with some equal sweetener or a skinny syrup to provide some kind of sweetening. And then also I've been using this higher protein 2% milk. I don't think it makes any difference in the points at all, but I do like the fact that I'm getting a little bit more protein. I do end up tracking 2 points for my morning coffee that I have throughout the morning because I'll have 2 or 3 cups and I end up using about a half cup of milk. I also did have a protein coffee. I made it by mixing a caramel premier protein together with the Javi coffee microdose coffee concentrate. I did do a short about this earlier in the week. It works out really well because you end up getting that really intense coffee flavor and caffeine in just a couple of teaspoons of the concentrate, and then I can add ice in and that keeps the drink cool without it being extra watered down, because when I used to make my own like cold brew and use that, it would just water it down a little too much. Now I should mention that Javi Coffee did send me this for me to try out. I'm super enjoying it, so I will also link to their channel down below because I think it's a really great product for what I want in my protein coffee. Now let's get into the lunch and I will let the video speak for itself. So this was supposed to be the Weight Watchers recipe savory chickpea waffles with chives. And you can see there are a couple of things that didn't happen here. It's obviously not a waffle because I tried to make it in my waffle maker and I will show you what happened. It was kind of a total disaster. And I decided instead to pivot to making it into a pancake. I also didn't have chives, so I have a fried egg on top, as they recommended in the recipe. And then I topped it with some pepper and some everything but the bagel seasoning to give it some more flavor. I hope this turns out well. I'm not sure what to expect from it. So the entire thing is just 1 point. The 1 point just comes from some cornstarch in the recipe. You basically blitz together some drained chickpeas, some Greek non-fat yogurt, an egg white, some cornstarch, some salt, and some cumin. I believe that's everything that's in it. And then you're supposed to cook it in a waffle iron. I did it as a pancake and top it with an egg and also some chives. But as I mentioned, I don't have that. So I'll let you know how this is. So it was a bit of a disaster in the making of the waffle. And I have some definite thoughts on the taste of the waffle. It was just all a little too heavy, especially with that egg on top. I don't know if maybe I should have cooked it longer. It was definitely cooked through, but the inside of it was just really heavy, which I get, it's made of chickpeas. If any of you watch the Great British Baking Show, sometimes they describe some of the baking in a negative way as being stodgy. That's what it felt like. It tasted stodgy. It was just like really dense and not at all fluffy on the inside and just tasted like chickpea. I don't think this recipe is unsalvageable because I think it's a really great vegetarian, not vegan, because there's egg white in there, but a good vegetarian protein-filled meal. But I have some definite ideas on how it could be made better. I feel a little bit like they should lean more into the spices with this. And because it's got the chickpea base, somehow it's sort of making me think a little bit more of like Indian flavors. So I feel like you could amp up the spice on this with more of the cumin, perhaps some garam masala in there, or maybe some coriander, something to just really amp up the spiciness of it because it is savory. So it's not bad to add in extra spice. I wouldn't go with an egg on top. I actually ended up adding some sriracha to this because I felt like I needed something with slightly brighter or more vinegary or spicy notes to it to cut through the denseness of the pancake. So, or waffle as it should have been. So I feel like if you really spiced up the waffle more and then perhaps on top had like a salad with like some really bright vinaigrette or something more pickly on top of it. And I haven't quite decided what that would be, but if you had something really light, spiced, vinegary, pickly to balance out the heaviness of the protein waffle, I feel like this actually has a shot of being something good. but in its current form and how they recommend serving it with like an egg on top, it was very heavy. So originally my plan was to use that chickpea waffle and the second one that I made to make sort of a play on like chicken and waffles with some like air fried tofu and some spiciness on there. But you can see I did not have a second waffle because the first one failed so badly. So instead, I ended up falling back onto a dinner that I've shown before on this channel, but I've really been enjoying it. This is a recipe that I saw on the channel Nikki Gets Fit, and it's basically a sushi bowl. So this ended up being a 7-point dinner. I ended up having some jasmine rice for 6 points because I had about a cup of it. I actually put a little bit of seasoned rice wine vinegar onto that because it really adds that sushi taste. And then I did some chopped up cucumber, some shredded carrot, I did some edamame, and then I used a can of tuna that I mixed up with just some sriracha and then also a teaspoon of sesame oil. That's where the extra point comes from. And then I topped the entire thing with even more sriracha and some soy sauce. Now, one of the things that Nikki Gets Fit suggests, and I think it really does help this a little bit, is to use a square of laughing or a triangle of laughing cow cheese because it kind of mimics that like creaminess or cream cheese you sometimes get in sushi rolls. I didn't have one of those, so I didn't use it because this wasn't my original plan for dinner, but that really does add a great amount of flavor for 1 extra point. But this ended up being a very satisfying veggie-filled dinner to round out my day. So I do end up putting all of my points at the end of this video in a screen cap, but I will mention it ended up being a 19-point day, so I could bank 4 points. That works well for me lately because I am having days where I'm going out with friends for beer, and I do like having those extra points available. It wasn't a huge exercise day for me. I did end up closing all of my rings on my Apple Watch. I also put the screen cap of that at the end, but basically I just did it through walking, and sometimes I will see how much I walk naturally during the day and then top off that exercise with just some power walking back and forth in my place while I watch TV, and that gets me to my exercise for the day. All movement is good movement. It doesn't necessarily have to be like a crazy class or like a huge cardio workout. Walking is awesome, and I do try to hit 10,000 steps as well as my 30 minutes of exercise and my 500 calories burned through exercise on my Apple Watch. I hope this was helpful for you. Get a bit of recipe reviews in here. Thank you so much for watching this. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Bye!